Hey, good morning. Oh, give me a second. Give me a second. Hey, good morning. It's Mark here with another morning rant. It's 5:21. Let's get into the news real quick. Well, not necessarily all of the news. I mean, a person, a person that I literally grew up listening to, has been found guilty of 9 separate counts. One count included 14 acts of sexual assault, child endangerment, violation of the Mann Act, which is trafficking women for the purposes of sex. It's terrible. We all know that Robert Sylvester Kelly, aka R. Kelly, has been found guilty of nine counts of racketeering and all this other stuff that includes the manipulation and sexual gratification of himself, well, the manipulation of women for the sexual gratification of himself, and the hoarding of women and the mental manipulation of women, and in some cases, young women as young as Aaliyah at 15. I am for I am for the prosecution and in prison and jail time for any man that does what R. Kelly has been found guilty of. The hard part is reconciling the years of, I guess, adulation, the years of gratification that I received from his music. Sometimes his music helped me get over some things. Sometimes his music helped me delve deeper into some things. His first album with Public Announcement, Born into the '90s. Hey, I was born into the '90s. I'm an '80s baby, but I was born into the '90s. So it's hard. It's hard to see. Um, it's like watching Bill Cosby go to jail for the things that he did. Like a man that helped show HBCUs and how black kids can go to college, and showing black families a different side of the world. I mean, we're not all good times babies. I mean, that was a different world out there, a different world, and only to find out now this man that dropped out of high school and now got his doctorate in education and owned and had a $400 million plus empire was doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. It's like and to just like we did with Bill Cosby, to forgive and forget and let R. Kelly continue on with this stuff. It's you know it's it's shocking. It's surprising. All my friends know how much of an R. Kelly fan I was. His music, his creativity, the fact that we all knew that he couldn't read, but yet he can put together ballads, literal ballads. You know, he can learn different instruments and produce his own music. Hell, he revived the careers of Charlie Wilson and the Isley Brothers. I mean, so it's hard to see that this has happened, but it happened. I mean, he was found guilty. He's gonna do his time. It's simple as that. But it's hard to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow, but it is what it is. It is what it is. But anyway, spent 5 minutes on that crap. Let's get into Tucker Carlson and his replacement theory. His theory, and I've been looking online, and this goes back years. I can do a whole documentary on this replacement theory stuff, and I can also tell you about, and I'm gonna let John Avalon explain it to you further. about how the fear was that, when black folk got the right to vote, that they were going to dilute the white man's vote, and how when poor white men got the right to vote, they were going to dilute the land-owning white man's vote, and when women got the right to vote, they were going to dilute everybody else's vote. It seems like everybody's vote is going to get diluted when only white men can't vote. And this country, see that black book up there with the gold trim and the eagle up there? That has the Constitution in it. And the Constitution was written for land-owning white men to vote. Land-owning white men only got the right to vote. That was it. It wasn't until Andrew Jackson, that roughly around the time that Andrew Jackson became president, that the poor white man got a chance to vote. And he was considered the people's president because every white man got a chance to vote. Women did not get a chance to vote. And this is how much of a third, fourth, fifth class citizenship that a woman is in America. If you want to say slaves or African slaves are beneath everybody, you put African slaves at the bottom of the totem pole. If you got a pyramid, at the bottom of that pyramid, holding everything together, is the African slave. If you put them at the bottom, they got a right to vote. The male slaves got a right to vote before white women. Because even when it came down to whether or not a man or a woman should vote, white men chose black slaves, black former slaves to vote before they chose women to vote. Women only got the right to vote in the last 100 years. Black folk got the right to vote. Black men got the right to vote in 1866, 67. Women didn't get the right to vote to 1920. So Tucker Carlson is saying that because we have immigrants coming into this country that are not white, that they're diluting his vote. And he don't consider that racist.
What do you do with a racist theory chanted by white supremacists, embraced by killers, used for hate for generations? Well, if you're Tucker Carlson, you embrace it again and again and again. John Avlon has a reality check.
Extremists and the unhinged will always be with us, but they haven't always had people in positions of power and influence amplifying and justifying their message. That's why Tucker Carlson's double-down defense of replacement theory is worth more than his trademark confused dog look.
I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. Let's just say it, that's true. I mean, everyone wants to make a racial issue out of it. Ooh, the white replacement theory. No.
Okay. So the definition of white replacement theory is that the Democrat Party is trying to open up the borders and allow immigrants from a third world, Haiti, Africa, Afghanistan, Pakistan, South America, Middle America, Central America. They're trying to. The definition is white folk, because Democrats are trying to allow, because Democrats are heavily represented by the quote unquote minority races. Black and Latino folk vote heavily Democratic because Republicans feel like social programs benefit the minority party or the minority factions of this country more than they do the white man. And I would submit to you that the white person is still the majority in this country. Yes, the census has proven that it's been decreased, but yet still they are the majority when it comes to white people. When you put Latino, Black, Asian, whatever together, white folk become the minority. But when you separate us into separate blocks, white people are still the dominant race in this country. But they feel like because more immigrants are coming into this country from countries that are not white, that the Democrats are allowing black indigenous, well, not indigenous, but black and brown and whatever people to come into the country and kill off their vote. And again, I submit to you that that's not the case. That is not the case. We can go back in history and show all the different times that okay, well, first of all, let me say this. The term white, there is no race known as white. Before the white man considered themselves white, before that they were Swedish or Spanish or French or Britain. There was no white person. Go back and look at gangs of New York. Those gangs that were fighting in New York were all white gangs. And one white gang did not like another white gang because they wasn't Irish, they wasn't this, they wasn't, whatever. The Jews were hated by these people. So now they're saying that the white person, they've clumped themselves up together to become a white society, and now they're saying that, hey, we're all white, we should all stick together. Hell, they've even put Spanish people from Central America and South America in the Caucasian population. They're considered Caucasian. So white replacement theory is that he's assuming that the Democrats are allowing white people to be diminished in this country by black and brown people coming into this country. And again, going back into history, that's all they really allowed in this country. And bring us your tired, huddled masses yearning to breathe free. That's a quote from the Statue of Liberty. But they don't want that no more. And we can go into all the different laws and things that were passed in this country that tried to prohibit other races from coming into this country. But I digress. Let's keep going.
Now, it's hard to argue that warning about obedient voters from the third world isn't racial, but just to level set, let's see who's been chanting about replacement.
Jews will not replace us! Jews will not replace us!
Yeah, that would be white nationalists and neo-Nazis at the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally. See, the Great Replacement theory was also cited by mass shooters in El Paso and New Zealand. So Tucker should know that replacement theory is not disconnected from race and racial violence. In fact, a new analysis by the Washington Post shows that since 2015, right-wing extremists have been involved in 267 plots or attacks and 91 fatalities. Now, for Tucker, these facts might not matter. After all, Fox News lawyers argued that no one expects him to tell the truth. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
This is a voting rights question. I have less political power because they're importing a brand new electorate. Why should I sit back and take that? The power that I have as an American guaranteed at birth is one man, one vote, and they're diluting it.
Okay, there's a lot to work with there. First, America did not begin by guaranteeing one man, one vote.
That's how I told you that the Constitution didn't give everybody the right to vote.
First, only white male property owners could vote. Black men got the vote with the 15th Amendment after the Civil War.
Look at that quote behind him. The possible greater ratio of increase of the blacks, which ultimately may turn the whole country over to them. Thinks the Negro should be deprived of suffrage, the right to vote.
Announced by some as a political power grab designed to make whites a minority in the South. Women, of course, didn't get the vote till 100 years ago. And some men argued it would dilute the power of their votes. And
because 80% of the women eligible to vote are married and can only double or annual or annul their husband's votes. So if 80% of women are married in the 1920s and their husband vote, let's say Democrat, and the women vote Republican, well, that cancels out the vote.
lead to societal decline. The words one person, one vote wasn't codified until the Supreme Court did it in 1964 during the Civil Rights Movement. That's when the infamous Alabama governor, George Wallace, gave a speech that might sound familiar to some viewers of Fox News. Here's what he said, quote, I believe the American people have been pushed around long enough and that they, like you and I, are fed up with the continuing trend toward a socialist state. We must not be misled by left-wing incompetent news media that day after day feed us a diet of fantasy, telling us we're bigots, racists, and hate mongers, oppose the destruction of the Constitution and our nation. It's been said that history doesn't repeat, but sometimes it rhymes. This isn't about the past. Tucker's fanning the flames of a fire that is already burning. Because a new study of those folks charged in the Capitol attack found that fear of the Great Replacement may have been a prime driver, concluding that replacement theory might help explain why such a high percentage of riders hail from counties with fast-rising non-white populations. Tucker Carlson isn't playing a bigot. He's playing to his base. And that's your reality check.
Yeah,
And remember 2008 when Barack Obama became president? They wanted to take their country back. From what? From who? We need to take our country back. So replacement theory has been around for a while. The white man always felt like his vote was being diluted and that his stranglehold on America was being tarnished or diminished. And if you go by the words of the Constitution and not the background meaning of the Constitution, the country was designed to accept the downtrodden and the poor and those that came from nothing. Because again, John Adams was a farmer and a lawyer, and he didn't own slaves. George Washington was a farmer, a land surveyor, whose family owned slaves. Like, if you wanna get down into it, these people were just people. They were just people who came from nothing. Hell, Alexander Hamilton was a kid from the island of St. Croix in the Caribbean. The city got together and scraped up money and paid for him to come to the States to go to college in America. So this country was built on coming from nothing or having nothing and becoming something. When the potato famine hit the Irish, they swarmed to America, preferably most notably New York, and they had to suffer in squalor. And some made it out. A lot of them made it out. Hell, you got the African slave. You got the African slave who was put in horrible conditions, only to come to America and suffer from 1619 until 1865, chattel slavery, and then only to come out of that and go through another 100 years of segregation and Jim Crow, and then from that to now to go through 50 plus years of people still trying to of the people that had on white sheets, replacing them with black robes or police uniforms. So you still got people oppressing black folk, and yet black folks still secede. Replacement theory. One of the reasons why they're trying to stop abortion rights, stop the right for women to have abortions. They can't say that white women need to keep their children. So they got to put it in the context of all women, because white women abort just as much as black women abort. So yeah, so that's Fox News for you. That's the Republican Party for you. So let me get up out of here, people, because my kids are waking up and they're starting to make noise behind me. They try their best to be quiet, but I appreciate it. But anyway, what do you guys think? Again, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification buttons. Let me know what you think about the program. I'll keep giving you content. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you think. All right. Until the next one, people, I'm out. Y'all take care. All right. See you later.